Meh, that has been my response to just about everything lately. Another mass layoff, meh. Another news cycle filled with tragedy, meh. Another week of social media outrage when people tear each other open for the dumbest things imaginable, meh. It's all meh. There is an endless list of things I just stopped caring about, and it seems to grow every day. But this is not about not caring, it's more about overstimulation, about being so over it, done with it, because it would be so much easier to not care, So much easier to just roll your eyes back, shrug, and give up. But that's not it. Apathy, on paper, might sound like indifference, but I feel like it's a fouler, more cell deep form of exhaustion, lethargy, and just numbness. A kind of psychological shutdown. Because, and let's be honest here, there is just so much wrong in the world today. Every news cycle is just a highlight reel of violence, injustice, hatred, and greed. So many problems that no one seems to be doing anything about because most of us can really not do much about them. We try, we suffer, we give up. And this is not about not caring. This is post caring. I am indifferent to a great many things. I am indifferent to anything even slightly adjacent to sports. I am indifferent to reality TV and a dozen other things I'm too lazy to think up right now. This attitude, it's casual, it's unfeeling, it's irrelevant and ignorable in the sense that you can just choose to not engage with it and move on with your day. But this isn't apathy, is it? Apathy, unlike indifference, unlike simply not caring, is earned. Apathy is often not intentional, not a conscious decision or choice, but rather the byproduct of caring too much, scar tissue from too much feeling rather than its absence. Apathy can be a state of mind. It starts small, trivial even, but it can so easily snowball into a way of life. We begin by being apathetic towards the small things, then it spreads to the larger things, and before you know it, you are completely numb. You have turned off, shut down, and checked out, and we can't even find a reason to care. And the worst part, the idea around which this whole video revolves, is this: apathy isn't the enemy. It's often the body's last-ditch attempt at sanity. In a world that demands constant outrage, non-stop attention, infinite compassion, and immediate reaction, apathy becomes critical, not optimal, not shameful, but necessary. It stops being about caring or not caring and instead becomes the only way to keep your sanity. The only way to combat the frankly absurd degree of overstimulation and information bombardment we endure. So yeah, this video isn't a sermon, not a so-called call to action, because honestly, the last thing you need from me is to tell you to be more, to feel more. Rather, this is a quiet manifesto for the emotionally exhausted, for the people who cared themselves raw and have nothing left to give, but a dull, tired, meh. We are not meant for this. We are not meant cognitively, emotionally, physically to process this much information, this much noise, this much everything. It's tiring. Every hour is a new tragedy. Every scroll hides another horror that's to be appropriately gasped over and then promptly shoved out of our mental space. Not because we don't care, not because it's not important, but to simply make space for the next page, and the next, until it's just white noise, the same sound, the same picture, the same song, an endless tide of just filth. And at that point, we are left with a choice, because the red pill is to stay the course, to keep engaging, to bid farewell to any possibility of a peaceful night of sleep, and to resign ourselves to a life of chronic, systematic information poisoning. The blue pill, on the other hand, is to take a break, to pull back, to unplug, to disconnect for a moment, maybe for an hour, a day, hell, for a lifetime. The blue pill is a potion that gives you the ability to feel something again. And so, the red pill becomes lethargic acceptance. The blue, a quiet rebellion. A soft but stubborn no. It's not ignorance, it's not denial, it's not indifference. It's a decision. It's to decide to prioritize our own limited energies into anything that's even slightly selfishly productive. It's choosing to be still in a world that's constantly screeching. And hell, maybe stillness is the most radical choice we can make. But how, right? How do we unplug from a world that never stops, never turns off, never takes a pause? Well, I guess that's what this is for. A primer, a handbook, a guide to disengage, and the many reasons we need to. Think of it this way. Your time, your energy, your dams, they're finite. We don't have an unlimited supply. Picture a pie chart, picture a bank account. However it's visualized, there is a hard limit. And we don't get to exceed it just because the world demands so. So the question becomes, what do you spend your dams on? I mean, of course, 100 people losing their jobs because some overpaid stuffy suit needed a slightly bigger yacht should matter. It should hurt, it should stir something in you. But it doesn't, or it doesn't always. And that's not because you're a monster. It's because this story isn't really rare anymore. It's a tragedy, but it's also a template. It happens every day, everywhere. And here's the part that stings. Even as I say it, I can feel the slap in the face coming. We are not the ones affected. That's the sting, isn't it? The moment you realize it's not your pain, that you're not the one bleeding. And once that logic kicks in, the logic of if it's not me, then it's not my problem, it becomes dangerously easy to just tune everything out. That's the real threat, I think. Not selective empathy, but total detachment. Caring about everything all the time until nothing feels like it matters anymore. So maybe the move isn't to stop caring, maybe it's to care with precision. To stop reacting to everything and instead choose very deliberately what is truly worth the emotional cost. Because when we start curating our attention like that, really filtering it, editing it, we don't just protect our sanity, we rediscover our ability to feel. It's one thing to feel vaguely depressed about a forest fire that wipes out half a dozen species we have never even heard of, but it's another thing entirely to sit with that feeling, to actually feel it, and maybe, just maybe, push ourselves to act on it. There are several types of tired, and while a good 8 hours of sleep can fix a great many of those, the type I'm talking about is not so easy because it's not physical. Mental exhaustion is the kind of tired that sits somewhere deep behind your eyes. You have read too many headlines, felt too much pain, almost lived through a countless number of tragedies, and all that junk is clogged up right in you. It's the kind of burden that hangs off your shirt collar, dragging and pulling and weighing you down. The kind of weight that is not necessarily heavy, but just always there. Something that you can almost convince yourself to forget about until it builds and builds and builds. There is a term for this, actually, a real medical word for it. Compassion fatigue. There is only so much suffering a human mind can absorb, even indirectly, before it short circuits. Not because we don't care, but because we care too much, for too long, with too little rest. For the vast majority of our history, we were just trying to keep the tribe alive. Now we're expected to feel global scale emotion every damn day. Here's the thing about burnout. It does not just come from action, it also comes from exposure. And right now, we are just exposed to everything. Every notification, every headline, every algorithmically optimized scream is a tiny little psychic paper cut. And eventually, those cuts pile up. You bleed empathy until there is nothing left. So, step 3 is simple. It's brutal and necessary. Mute everything. Mute the noise, mute the chaos, mute the performative grief, mute the endless commentary that just pretends to be discourse. Let's mute the takes, the platform that are trying to turn your emotional nervous system into raw algorithmic data. This isn't about sticking your head into the sand. It's not about ignorance. It's not about denial or indifference. It's about recovery. Because what happens when you mute everything, even just for a few hours, is silence. And in that silence, we remember what our true thoughts really sound like. We remember how to process things on our own terms. Not at the speed of a scroll, not at the rate of a breaking news, but at a human pace. Because let's be honest here, you just don't need to know about everything the second it happens. You don't need the real-time feed of human misery injected directly in your bloodstream. Your compassion is a limited resource, so it's worth protecting. So mute the rage bait, mute the doom cycles, mute the guilt trips disguised as activism. Then once you've done all that, here's the scary part too. Mute yourself. Mute the inner voice that says that you should be doing more, feeling more, saving the world with your tears. Mute that too. Because in that quiet is where real empathy grows back. Not the performative kind, not the frantic, hollow reposting of it, but the real, slow, steady kind that's actually making you a better person, not a more online one. How much of you is owed? What fraction of your flesh, your sweat, and your feelings does the world own? And at what point does it become not just understandable, but a matter of simple survival to stop caring about the world in order to save yourself? It sounds horrible, it sounds detached and cold. It sounds like something a Bond villain would say before, I don't know, launching nukes or something. But it's not, right? It's survival. It's simple, basic biology. We have been conditioned to believe that selflessness is the moral high ground, that the more we give, the better we are, that if we are not constantly plugged into every tragedy, we are complicit, that silence is violence, that rest is privilege, that detachment is dangerous. But we all owe ourselves a break from being a 24/7 receptacle for global suffering. Apathy is not numbness. It's not shrugging your shoulders, sighing and surrendering. Well, it can be that too, but it can be more. Because in apathy is a kind of liberation, a kind of freedom, in the acceptance that we don't need to feel, see, or be everything, in the ability to choose what to let in, and what, more importantly, to keep out. Now, if this video made you feel something, let that be enough. Just sit with it. Thanks for watching.